Okay, fine. You people keep bringing it up every single time. Yammie, talk about the Himalayan. Yammie, the Himalayan is the best beginner bike. Yammie, Royal Enfield isn't really that bad. Yammie, please validate my opinions and tell me I didn't light $5,000 on fire to buy a subpar discount adventure bike that makes as much power as a two-stroke bicycle. But Zach and Ari did a big adventure on the Himalayan and it did great, so that must mean it's the best, right? Never mind that the Duke 390 Adventure is better in literally every single way and the Versys X300 exists. No, you gotta have the heritage and the pedigree of a Royal Enfield, even though that pedigree has basically been cashed in for mass market appeal in order to sell a metric crap ton of motorcycles around the world. And speaking of worldwide appeal, hello to our surprisingly large Indian, the country not the manufacturer, audience. No doubt some of the biggest Royal Enfield simps out there. Yeah, I see you down in the comments typing out your long love letter to Royal Enfield. I swear y'all are some bigger diehards than the Harley boys. It's crazy. But listen, to all you Himalayan fans across the world, I apologize ahead of time, but it's just not a good bike, and we're gonna go into exhaustive detail today and prove once and for all that the Royal Enfield Himalayan sucks. Oh wait, that Spites thing, isn't it? Well, whatever. We're gonna be taking a break from the So You Want a Blank Bike series, so what better way to send it off than a good old roast? Get your s'mores ready, my baby squids. It's gonna be a good one. But before we get too far into this thing, I need to talk to you about your cell phone. You know that thing you're probably staring at right now, or that rectangle your buddy pointed at you when you looped your Ninja 250 in the parking lot trying to prove the world you know how to wheelie? Yep, that video got 1 million views and all you got to show for it was some busted plastics and a bruised ego. Well, your cell phone needs just as much crash protection as that little 250 did, and thanks to Rockform, you get that and more in one sleek package. Yes, I have been binge watching old infomercials. Get your impact protection, you get your phone safe magnet, and you get your lanyard like a college freshman. But you can also pop that case onto a Rockform handlebar mount so you can watch a wheelie tutorial next time you're out riding and not loop a motorcycle directly onto your nutsack. As a side note, please do not watch How to Wheelie 101 while riding your motorcycle because that would be bad. You can get all that goodness for 25% off when you click the link below and use the code YN25. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but you're a sad, pathetic husk of a human if you don't click that link. Save your immortal soul. What am I talking about? Just click the link already. Okay, so Royal Enfield. I think it's worth taking a minute to go over the general history since it's a little complicated. RE was founded in 1901 by the Enfield Cycle Company Limited of Redditch, Worcestershire. Worcestershire? Who can say? That might be the most painfully British thing I've ever said. They made a quadricycle, which is basically two bicycles taped together, quad busa, eat your heart out, with a tiny little engine. Then they made a car called the Enfield 15 in 1907. They made sidecars, motorcycles, basically anything with an engine, and they would make it, except it was British and before anyone knew how to make a motorcycle, which meant that they never really worked right, and they broke down all the time. After World War II and the India Independence Act jettisoned Pakistan and India from the British Empire, the newly formed Indian government needed motorcycles to help patrol their borders. They chose the Royal Enfield Bullet, and instead of buying them direct from Royal Enfield in England, Royal partnered with Madras Motors in 1955 to form Enfield India and make motorcycles in India. By 1962, Enfield India was making 100% of the components within their Chennai factories. As it happens, the Redditch brand of Royal Enfield was sold off in 1967 and closed for good in 1978, making RE a 100% Indian motorcycle manufacturer. The first motorcycle that Enfield India made was the Bullet, and they made it basically the same from 1955 to 1995, using a 346cc or 499cc air-cooled single-cylinder engine. The 346 put down 21 horsepower and 15 foot-pounds of torque and weighing in at 416 pounds. In much the same way that Harley ran to Ronald Reagan for protection from Asian competition, Enfield did the same thing with the Indian government, leading to basically zero innovation for over 40 years. It actually got so bad that Enfield India was forced into bankruptcy and bought out by Eicher Motors Limited in 1990. Nowadays, Royal Enfield makes Bullet, the Classic 350, the Meteor 350, the Classic 500, and the Interceptor 650, though they've announced that they're officially cutting the 500cc engine from production. One of the newest models in their lineup is the Himalayan, added in 2016. Enfield India black-bagged Pierre Terblanche, who, if you're unfamiliar, was one of the minds behind the Ducati Hypermotard, Multistrada, and the 888, and they forced him to make an adventure adventure bike out of parts lying around the factory. The mindset was to create a bike that could tackle the Himalayan mountains. What we got was a completely new motorcycle since it's with their first off-road bike. It was the first motorcycle they made to not use some permutation of the bullet frame and engine. Its engine is a 411cc oil-cooled 4-stroke single overhead cam engine which puts down 24 horsepower and 24 foot-pounds of torque, and it weighs 401 pounds wet in India and 439 pounds everywhere else. Why? Because in India, the Himalayan isn't fuel injected nor does it have ABS. In both markets, the engine is mated to a 5-speed transmission that works. It was the most modern bike that Royal makes since it was the only oil-cooled bike that they made, later using that in the Interceptor and Continental 650s. They make some of the Himalayans that sell in Australia, the UK, the Asian markets right here in the heart of the USA, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Yep. You heard me right. The Himalayan you got is actually more American than a lot of Harley-Davidsons, which is weird to think about, but that's global trade for you. In terms of technology, an international, i.e. non-Indian Himalayan features ABS, which can be disabled for off-road riding, which is a cool feature, and fuel injection to comply with modern EU emissions regulations. It's packing bargain bin brake components that work fine for a motorcycle making 24 horsepower, wire spoke wheels, and 8.6 inches of ground clearance. What is nice, though, is that the Himalayan features crash protection from the factory, which is a nice addition. Seeing as how most of the time that's an optional $700 add-on. All that and it cost only $4,749 brand spanking new at a dealership. But is it any good? No. No.
No.
No.
No.
No.
No! God, please, no! No!
And this is probably the part you were looking forward to the most, but it's time to take a long overdue swing at the Himalayan with a 2x4 filled with rusty nails and put it to bed once and for all. First of all, let's talk about that brand new engine they made for the bike. It's 411 cc's, which is 13 cc's more than a DRZ 400, and it makes 24 horsepower and torques, which is about 15 less than a DRZ. But hey, the DRZ only makes 29 foot-pounds of torque, so in that regards, the Himalayan isn't too far off, I guess. Oh wait, the weight. The DRZ, which makes more power, weighs 317 pounds, while the Himalayan is 439 pounds, which is more than an XSR 700. Even the WR250 makes more power and weighs a whole lot less. So did they succeed in their original goal of making a dual sport or off-road bike? Not really. If you want a dual sport, get something else. This is a pathetically bad attempt for a dirt bike with lights. But Yammie, the Himalayan is meant to be an adventure bike, so don't worry about the fact that the CEO of India said it was going to be a dual sport, and that's not relevant at all. Okay, it looks like an adventure motorcycle, so judge it against other adventure motorcycles. Okay, fine, with pleasure, but I can tell you right now, it's just as good of an adventure motorcycle as it is as a dual sport motorcycle. First of all, let's throw up the Himalayan against the Kawasaki Versys X300. The X300 is more of an adventure touring motorcycle than an actual adventure bike, but it does have a skid plate, long travel suspension, and wire wheels, so slap a set of knobbies on there and let's go. It's got a 296cc engine pulled out of the Ninja 300. It makes 40 horsepower and 19 foot-pounds of torque, so point number one in favor of the Cowie. It's got 6 gears and an extra cylinder, which means that it's better at speed compared to the Himalayan's thumper, which is what you want to do for long touring adventure riding. The Himalayan does have slightly more ground clearance at 8.6 inches to the Versys 7.1, but the Cowie carries an extra half gallon of gas, and in the adventure touring segment, it's kind of a big deal since you're only a real adventure if you can ride through Mongolia on a single tank of gas. Brand new, the Versys will run you $5,499, which means the Himalayan is substantially cheaper. If you're a beginner looking to get an adventure bike and all you want to do is ride on roads, then the Versys is the better choice. But if you want to tackle some off-road shenanigans, the Himalayan's probably a little bit smarter. See, Yams, I told you, the Himalayan does make sense. Okay, maybe it's better than the GSX 250 of adventure bikes, but that's really not a high bar. Let's chuck it up against a beginner ADV that's actually decent and see how it does, shall we? For that, you have the KTM 390 Adventure, which, hey, that's another Indian motorcycle. And yeah, Fortnite dropped a review recently saying that you shouldn't get this bike, but it's a very solid starting place for an aspiring long way round rider. It's got that lovable 373cc single punching out 43 horse and 23 foot-pounds of torque from the Duke and RC bikes, and it's playful, wheelie happy, and relatively reliable nowadays. Head gaskets? Head gaskets. It's way more potent on and off-road than the Himalayan thanks to its modern liquid cooling, WP Apex fully adjustable suspension, and 379 pounds wet weight. It's also packing a TFT display, which is not really a requirement, but it's nice to have, switchable ABS, bi-brake brakes, backlit controls, Bluetooth connectivity, and an optional quick shifter, which is super cool. By comparison, the Himalayan's new feature includes hazard lights. Such tech, much progress. Wow. The Himalayan does have wire spoke wheels with a 2117 setup, which is more off-road ready than the KTM's 1917 cast wheels, and the KTM has a slightly shorter range thanks to its 3.8 gallon tank. Its ground clearance is also better than the KTM's 7.8 inches, but where the Himalayan really wins is price. Brand new, the KTM comes in at $6,199, which makes the Himalayan's $4,700 price tag look quite appealing. But think about how much more you're getting for that extra $1,500. You're getting a motorcycle that's completely modern from front to back, with better road manners, more features, and years of actual proven off-road pedigree and success. If you're thinking about these two bikes, I strongly urge you to save a little bit more and get the KTM. There's a ton of other bikes that do what the Himalayan wants to do, but better. The DRZ, the CB500X, the DR650, the KLR650, Jeep's electric mountain bike. So why do people like the Himalayan so much? Well, it's a Royal Enfield, and it's a passionate company filled with passionate riders doing new and cool stuff. It's actually really inspiring to see the CEO demanding that upper management get their hands dirty and test the motorcycles that they make. If you're at all interested, there's an 8-minute video on the development of the Himalayan, and it's really clear that it was designed by adventure riders for adventure riders. They may not have knocked it out of the park. In fact, they shanked it real good. Like, instead of hitting the ball, they somehow managed to hit themselves right in the testicles with the bat, but they tried. It's the same deal with the recent flat tracking interests. One point I want to make here, and I'm going off script here a little bit, is that Royal Enfield makes a lot of sense for markets that are more price conscious and where wages are lower than what we have here in North America. Here in North America, we're a little bit spoiled for choice when it comes to bikes, and honestly, bikes for us are kind of like toys. It's very few and far between that someone actually uses a bike as an everyday commuter here in America. However, in other markets around the world, a bike is the tried and true form of transportation, and for a lot of folks, a Royal Enfield Himalayan, an R3, or a Ninja 400, these are aspirational motorcycles for people who get around on 125s. So I just want to make the case here that the Himalayan is an awesome motorcycle for a lot of people, but here in North America, there are plenty of other options that I think you probably should look at.
And just like that, when you least expect it, Cowboy Yammie is back at it once again. Why don't you click this video right here, you let me know what you think of it, okay? Leave me a nice comment, subscribe to the channel, leave me a like, do all those nice things, and y'all have yourselves a good day.